PAC, or a Political Action Committee, is a American organization, type of organization, a tool to sort of, I think, to a large extent, a free speech tool to have an organization that is fighting for certain values and to put those values more into politics by supporting certain candidates. One pack that was recently created, and I mean recently, I think they were filed or they were officially filed by the SEC like 3 days ago, is AZAPAC, the Anti-Zionist American Political Action Committee. In the name, it should tell you what it is about. It's basically against, well, they have their own definition of Zionism, but it's basically for supporting candidates that are against the American, I'd say, alliance with Israel in the sort of calmest terms possible. And it is exactly what you would expect. It's a coalition of anti-Semites from around the world. We'll cover a few of the candidates. As I've said, it's new, so they only have 3 candidates they officially support right now. But as you would expect, it's you have 3 candidates where basically one is like your MAGA Republican but not pro-Israel. One is somebody fighting for Medicare for all, but is against Israel, and another one is sort of like the fiscal conservative. But of course, the only things he wants to cut is the support for Israel. Welcome to the reality show. Today we'll cover this up and coming political action committee, which might be, since they are gearing up for the midterms, so this might actually be an interesting. It would be interesting to see if they manage to sort of grow more. Joining me today are James Valiant and Stuart Margolis. Thank you guys for joining me today. And before we go through, we'll go through their website, we'll go through their like official video they posted, and we'll go through the candidates. And then we'll of course go through the founder himself, although I want to keep it aside from now. James, I assume you've never heard of this political action committee yet, since it is pretty new.
Well,
But
just
yeah,
recently. It has come to my attention quite recently, but unfortunately, it has splashed itself across my awareness in an unpleasant way. I don't care how they define Zionism. By being anti Zionist, they're anti Israel. They don't believe that Israel has a right to exist. Cut to the chase. When someone says I'm anti Zionist, see, I am a Zionist. I am not, I do not come from Jewish background. I believe in the state of Israel's existence. And if you say I'm anti-Zionist, then what you're saying is I'm anti-Israel. And you can tell by all the ways they talk about Israel. Israel is the aggressor. Israel is the one engaged in a genocide. Israel is always the bad guy from their perspective. And what do they want? They want to end all military aid between America and Israel. And they have this, of course, classic anti Semitic trope that Israel controls American foreign policy or indeed policy in general. They don't mention the fact that Japan and Saudi Arabia are the beneficiaries of more weapon sales than Israel. Let me just repeat that, put that, underline that. They act as though as though all American policymakers have the same attitude toward Israel. And you can see the difference between Obama, who failed to veto an anti-Israel measure, and other presidents. They act as though
oh,
Biden.
actually, I'll throw a fun thing there. So one thing they have on their website is it's called a reverse cannery mission, where they basically list all the politicians. Do you know how Ilhan Omar is classified based on this reverse cannery mission?
I would guess rather highly.
Liberal Zionist. She
Oh,
is too
oh, whoa.
Zionist. Ilhan
What?
Omar is too Zionist for these people.
Okay. They've just fallen off the edge of all sanity here if they think Ilhan Omar is a Zionist. I mean, Ilhan Omar, I think, would object to that characterization. And if they think she's a liberal Zionist, then you can see just how departed from reality they are, how far from reality they are. But the idea that Joe Biden wasn't tying Israel's, one hand behind Israel's back, the idea that Israel isn't still getting pressure from Trump on various things, as though somehow American policymakers are the slaves of Israel. That's absurd on the face of it. I said, and as I point out, Israel isn't even the number one recipient of military sales. Now I'll just back up and say that military aid is different than other foreign aid. I'm not saying we can't be foolish and altruistic about how we engage in military trade. I just named one, Saudi Arabia, that I wish were not on the list at all in terms of getting sales of military equipment. But military matters are a proper function of government. The foreign policy of the United States shouldn't be focused on foreign aid, that education and awareness and all this other crap that we do. Even feeding the starving people of the world is not a proper function of government. On the other hand, military affairs and the defense of the United States and its interests abroad is a valid function of the United States government. So selling military equipment to Japan or selling military equipment to Israel, in my view, is a perfectly valid function of the United States government. And here I will contrast myself sharply with maybe other people who identify as being on the side of the liberty movement. They are really not, because Israel is what stands for, the one country in the region that stands for comparative liberty is Israel. They recognize individual rights. They have free speech. They don't abuse women as other countries in the area do. This hatred of Israel is a hatred of civilization. It really, really is. And if you can't see that America has a selfish interest in supporting Israel, then you haven't been aware of what's been going on for decades there. For decades. Just take the recent closing of the Red Sea because of the Houthis and their racist genocidal attempt on Israel, frankly, then you're not aware of the international dimensions of this and how America gains from trade with Israel, how America gains from having an open international trade area like the Red Sea. So no, they can't identify America's national interests at all. They are anti-Israel at root. And they have this bizarre anti-Semitic conspiracy theory behind it all, that somehow Jews or Israel control American foreign policy, which is just a disgusting anti-Semitic trope on the face of it.
Yeah, just a quick reminder when I mentioned Ilhan Omar. So that is a reverse cannery mission. I don't think they have any relation to this political action committee, but this is what they post on their website. So I at least assume they endorse it if they put it on their website. Now, Stuart, when it comes to this, AZAPAC, they define themselves as, or it says on their website, it says it exists to end America's political, financial, and military entanglement with Israel. We support candidates who reject Israeli lobby money and act solely in the interest of the American people. And I'll just point one more thing there, because, interest of American people. But when it says they have a FAQ on their website which says, does AZAPAC evaluate candidates on issues such as abortion, immigration, gun rights, free speech, or cultural issues? And they answer, AZAPAC aims to uphold the Constitution of the United States. It does not take a stance on issues other than Zionism. And I understand that political action committees, they have a certain, they have like a usually delimited, like you have the NRA, they have their own like political action committee arm, and they focus on, they grade people based on how supportive of the Second Amendment they are, and so on. But if you have this like one thing of focus, like ending entanglement with Israel, and no matter what else, that they could be for the destruction of America, and they would ally themselves with like people like if we go on the right, people like Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes, right? As long as they, or Marjorie Taylor Greene, as long as they are against Israel, we are okay with it, even if they want to destroy America, be it on the right or on the left. People like Ilhan Omar, or even more, I don't know who is like even more anti-Zionist on the left. But even if those people then will go for it, what is really the value of like what is even the value searching of people who would support this?
I mean, they are trying to find the people that really believe that, all of the world's problems are the result of, a Jewish conspiracy. If you believe that you know crazy nonsense, then it makes sense to target that and never mind anything else, because that's the fundamental that is ruling the world. Um, it's of course insanity to believe anything like that. But if you believe it, then yeah, the other issues fall away. Those can all be sorted out after we get rid of this evil conspiracy that's running the world. It's nuts, but it has a certain internal logic, I guess, if you buy the crazy premise.
We have a super chat from Jonathan. Thank you so much. Yeah, and in some way, this like alliance between like extremists just to fight like one specific issue. As much as we maybe overuse this analogy, it reminds me of Nazi Germany and the fact that the communists were actively fighting with the Nazis, not against the Nazis, but with the Nazis to bring down the Weimar Germany. Because, of course, communists also oppose a liberal democratic regime. And their idea was, we'll simply take out the liberal regime, and then, when the Nazis get into power, they'll suck, so we'll take over. And of course, when the Nazis took over, they killed all the communists. And this is what will happen to these people. I don't want there's a little spoiler that I don't want to give, a little surprise for people about who is behind this organization that I don't want to give yet. But this is always what happens. The people who are against each other, like fundamentally, meaning the left and the right, they are not really against each other, but they are definitely enemies on the political sense. They ally themselves for some goal. In this case, it's to go against Israel. And then whichever groups manages to take over sooner, take out the other group. And this is exact thing that will happen here. Maybe a little more things from the site. So yeah, when it comes to the definition of Zionism, they define it as, from the standpoint of America, Zionism is the extortion of US taxpayers and the bribery of the American political class for the benefit of Israel. Now, I think it's important to like define your terms, but when you define it in this way, it's because at the end they also I think they also have like a FAQ about like what is your stance on the existence of Israel, and they say we have like no stance. But the fact is you do. If you consider somebody like Ilhan Omar to be a Zionist, if you say that there's too much Israeli or Zionist influence in America, when people say that on the media there is no Palestinian voices, what you actually mean is there are no voices calling for outright destruction of Israel. So if you have a problem that there isn't those voices there, then whatever you say on your website, you are calling for the destruction of Israel. You do want to see it, especially if we will go into some also conspiracies from people behind this. But I mean, I'll throw in one more thing to you, James. They also have something like results of the US aid, where they quote Israel has committed genocide in the Gaza Strip, UN Commission finds. So I've already said that you have a few Republicans being supported by this. So it's interesting how these people, like Republicans, rightfully so, hate the UN, right? But whenever it suits them, for example, Donald Trump is advancing in the UN Security Council right now a resolution about the forces coming into Gaza, despite the fact that Donald Trump has probably been one of the biggest anti-UN presidents we've ever had. I think it wouldn't be unfair to define him like that. Yet, when it suits him, he uses it. And in this way, these people hate the UN, but if they say something we like, well, might as well use them.
Yeah, the great critics on the right of the United Nations are now cozying up to absurd, and frankly, one of the reasons why the right is supposed to not, be distrustful is because of all these dubious nations that are on them, in the United Nations that hate Israel. They're really an anti-Israel body, and I mean, as a group, the United Nations has been hostile to Israel. That's unmistakable. You know what's even more ironic is they'll say, we can use the money that we spend with military aid to Israel on what? Building bridges, feeding the poor.
Yeah,
These
but
are
also watch the video, yeah.
but these are conservatives who are critics of government spending. They once upon a time were critics of the welfare state, and what they're doing is they're saying, "Hey, America first. We can be spending that money. The government can be spending your tax dollars elsewhere." And these are supposed to be people on the right. And so, yeah, they embrace the welfare state. They embrace the United Nations because, after all, Israel is hostile to and when you think about Israel, the aid we give to Israel, with the trillions of dollars the government spends, the amount of foreign aid to Israel, even military aid to Israel, is a small, teeny little percentage. Do they really think that somehow the welfare state could be funded? And consider the paradoxical irony here. They're saying, yes, well, we could give it to disaster relief, we could give it to food stamps, we can give it to, and these are conservatives, these are right-wingers. I'm afraid there's no voice that is consistently in favor of individual rights, liberty, capitalism, because their attack on Israel, and the mask slips, the right-wing attack on Israel ends up being pro-UN, being pro-welfare state, being tribalistic about America first. Notice that. Just notice that it's the right who are making these kind of left-wing arguments and aligning themselves with left-wing groups if necessary. And this PAC, this Political Action Committee, is just such a big tent alliance between left and right. You got to question, at some point you got to question who you're, getting in bed with. At some point you got to question who it is that you're ganging up with. If they really can overlook the differences between the hard left, right, and be on the right and be in favor of it, what we're looking at are people who recognize that the one thing that unites us is our opposition to individual rights, individual liberty, civilization. We're in favor of tribalist collectivism. You just have a different flavor than we do.
Yeah,
That's sanction of the evil is what we call it. We objectivists call that the sanction of the evil. Any right-winger who's allying themselves with the left like this and making those kind of arguments about it, they're not our friend. They cannot be our friend. They are no friend of civilization, no friend of capitalism.
yeah, and this is what always happens when there is like a one specific goal that you, or not. The problem isn't even one specific goal, but the willingness to compromise any of your values to basically achieve that one goal, right? Because it is, yeah, they're willing to sacrifice or compromise on every single conservative value there is if we simply, cut away ties with Israel. Because I mean, I do want to go into video. So, Stuart, any of your thoughts about basically this? When these organizations such as these get created and they are willing to compromise pretty much every single value other than that they hold simply to achieve that.
Well, I think it is a mistake both philosophically and just pragmatically, as James pointed out. I mean, inevitably, if they are successful, the result will be that one side will go to war with the other side, and it'll be a bloodbath, as it was for the communists in Nazi Germany. These kinds of alliances are not stable. They're not productive, and really can only lead to, it might lead to that particular goal being achieved. Hopefully not in this case, but just generally, sometimes they can lead to the goal being achieved, but it's always at the expense of any kind of principle. So the end result is never going to be good.
Just quickly, somebody in the chat says, and I assume it's not a troll and it's a genuine questions. They ask, why are you all upset about an America First message? I'm not American, but shouldn't that be the message every country would want? Now, it really depends how you decide to sort of define. If by, I think every country, every legitimate country, the number one goal should be the respect for the individual rights of your own citizens. And that is the same in every country. And in that way, and national interest of every single country should be very similar. They're generally free nations, nations that respect the rights of their own people. Generally, it's very rare that they have like a conflict between each other, because their desire is not to conquer other nations, their desire is not to take from other nations, and to that extent they should be able to find a cohesion. That's why an organization like NATO is able to exist, right? You have a bunch of Western nations that have generally the same overall goal and are going for the same things. If your America first values are stopping free trade for the sake of some, like concept of a West Virginian manufacturer or something, basically violating the rights of some of your citizens for the sake of some other citizens, that kind of America first is problematic. James, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, the way America First is interpreted by many Trumpsters is America only. And if you see that America's interests are inherently in conflict with everyone else's, there's a perfect analogy to domestic affairs. If you see human interests necessarily at conflict with one another, that my interests are different than Stuart's interests and cannot coexist, that whatever I gain comes at the expense of someone else. If you look at it like a socialist zero-sum game, the economy is a single pie. The same is true with international affairs, by the way. If it's America only, then it's anti-America. If America is going to go it alone without reaching out to those who do share our interests and values, if we look at international affairs as a zero-sum situation, then what we are inherently, we better get out of NATO altogether in any way, shape, or form. We better stop any kind of military alliance with Japan. We better stop having a military alliance with Israel altogether, because all of our interests are at odds with each other and we're all in conflict with each other. Now this particular political action committee has one nation in mind. They wouldn't use that kind of fallacious logic, let me suggest, when it comes to Great Britain or Japan. They would use that kind of logic when it comes to Israel, because somehow Israel is a special case. But no, my interests are, so long as human interaction is voluntary, there needs be no conflict of interest between Stuart and myself. If all interaction is voluntary and he can walk away and say, no, Jim, I don't want to have that interaction with you, then guess what? There is no necessary conflict of interest between rational human beings. That it's not built into the cards. It's kind of traditionally the left's way of looking at all policy and economic matters. It's interesting. Of course, you find the exact analog on the right with their tribalism. And the tribalism here amounts to anti-Semitism. It really, really does. You'll notice that the focus on this, the Christian nationalist right, is on Christianity. And America is a Christian nation. And the more they land on that, you'll notice it's the Candaces and the Tuckers and the Nick Fuenteses. The more they land on this America first, what they're really landing on is we're a Christian nation, and we have to look at the world through a Christian lens, and our interests are inherently in conflict with other nations in this world, particularly with Israel's. Now, I have an entirely different way of looking at the world. America should have alliances, trading agreements with those who do share our values and our interests. America's self-interest, America first, cannot be achieved by ignoring the fact that we do have other nations out there with whom we do share values and interests. And if you can't tell the difference between Israel and Iran, say, Iran has been funding Hezbollah, which has been killing hundreds and hundreds of Americans for the last 40 years. Iran says death to America. Iran wants to get a nuclear weapon. And if you can't see that Israel is our natural ally against Iran, then you aren't even beginning to think about America's actual interests. Or say with the Houthis, like I brought up, stopping trade through the Red Sea. You really have no conception of America's national self-interest, if there is such a term. America only is America last. America first means having alliances, proper alliances with those nations which do, and there's not a lot in the world, I grant you. We should not be having, I've given this lecture many times, we should not have diplomatic relations with dictatorships. No, we should not. On the other hand, when a nation is on this side of respecting individual rights and wanting peace and wanting trade and wanting a mutual win-win relationship, those are our friends. Those are the ones that we should be protecting against the forces of savagery for our own sake. So this concept, America first, in the hands of many Trumpsters, becomes America only, which in my view is anti-American interest in the long run.
Stuart, any thoughts on America first?
I think that as it has come to be used by Trump and the MAGA crowd, it's absolutely, as James said, it's the opposite. It ends up America was founded on individualism, and America first, as conceptualized by Trump and MAGA, is complete collectivism. And so, no, I'm absolutely against the concept of America first in that way. I think one of Ayn Rand's one of many, but one of her innovations was explaining that for rational men, there are no conflicts of interest. You know, that the interests of rational people align, and that concept is completely rejected by MAGA, by today's right. So yeah, the way they've conceptualized it is completely illegitimate.
Now let's take a look at one of the big videos AZAPAC has posted. Now this is well, this is meant to represent the organization. So I think the whole video is like 3 minutes, and we'll see how much we'll watch. But let's watch the first one.
The United States of America did not begin with a revolution against tyranny, only to serve a foreign nation state. But the fact is, our government acts like the servant of another country. That other country is, of course, the State of Israel. That's not policy. That's a national disgrace. I'm Michael Rectenwald, founder of the Anti-Zionist America Political Action Committee, or AZAPAC. Let's cut to the chase, shall we? The U.S. government has been hijacked by forces loyal to Israel. Does Congress represent us? No. With rare exceptions, they work for Israel. These aren't your elected reps, they're puppets. And their strings are pulled by donors loyal to the modern nation state of Israel. This isn't an alliance, it's extortion. While we're scraping by, eggs at $6 a dozen, rent or mortgage devouring our paychecks, our leaders have funneled over $21 billion to Israel in 2 years.
Okay, Stuart, it's interesting how many lies they are like actively trying to, like how conspiracy brained these people are, you know, hijacked. I mean, to some extent, if I'm being honest, if America, the greatest nation on the world, 350 million people, was able to get hijacked by a nation founded 80 years ago, I feel like we should stop defending America. That America kind of sucks. That is not the America I would even want to defend. The fact is, no, for the longest time, Americans wanted special relationship of America with Israel. He says like scraping by. It's like, come on, like the support of Israel is the reason why America is like scraping by. Even like you could take, look, I'm not even taking like the current, like this year's federal budget. Even if you just take the deficit, if you like divided it by 100, they would still not cover like how much Israel is like
just the interest on the debt.
Yeah, just the interest. Like you wouldn't even pay the interest, barely, like
No.
not at all. And also like funneled, like the money that was funneled to Israel. You mean appropriated by the Congress? Like what is this? Like this is not secret. Like America is not secretly giving money to Israel. Everybody knows what is happening. American people have generally supported this, but I mean, yes, Stuart, what do you make of the way they choose to like portray this?
Well, the first time I saw the video, if you hadn't sent it to me, if I had just been like scrolling and came across it, I would have thought it was, a parody video that like Saturday Night Live had put out, because it's so over the top crazy. It's just, with the animation of the puppet on the strings, and I mean, it's just every trope that is just beyond ridiculous. They've managed to cram into this one video. I guess it's impressive in its way that it's managed to cram so much misinformation into such a short video. But yeah, it's just bonkers.
Yeah,
No,
yeah. So James, just quickly to throw, and the way it's always seen as like secret cabal, sort of like controlling, and it's always like, oh, we found how much money is going to this politician. What do you mean found? You mean like you looked up an SEC filing to see like
Right.
how much a political action committee has like contributed to the campaign? It's like, this is not secret stuff. Like, you can go to like government websites to find
Yeah.
out what is happening. But
Yeah.
James, any of your thoughts?
Oh, no, congressional appropriations and government spending is not really a secret, but more than that. Look at as Stuart points out, they have the image, the graphic of the strings being pulled, and he actually uses the word extortion. Extortion is to extract by a threat. What threat can Israel? What Israel's putting a gun to the United States, or else what? What or else does Israel have? Well, Israel does have this. It's defending civilization. It's fighting those who hate America most on the front line in the Middle East. Yeah, okay. So we are getting this objective benefit from the existence of Israel and its self-defensive measures, mind you. America gets a direct benefit from. But somehow, is that the source of extortion? Because otherwise, I'd want to know what threat Israel is issuing. And okay, they're bought and paid for, they're bribed. Okay, every lobby group in Washington, I grant you, with the expansion of government power, we've also had the proliferation of all these different fighting interest groups, all scrambling for U.S. tax dollars. That's for sure. But when he comes out, he uses the price of eggs or something. Look. The American budget deficit, the American inflation problem, American supply chain disruptions thanks to tariffs, which are supposed to be America first too, which could, I mean, think of that. That's a classic example, isn't it? America first is these tariffs, which is America shooting itself in the foot repeatedly, and calling it American self-interest, right? It's nationalism, chest beating, chest thumping nationalism that is actually counterproductive to the American economy and the well-being of the American consumer. Classic. Now project that in foreign policy. Now somehow Israel's got a gun to America's head. Little Israel has a gun somehow to America's head, so we can call it extortion. Somehow the Jewish lobby is in control to the point that our politicians are simply puppets on a string. Now, this reminds me of more than anything else are those really horrific anti-Semitic posters and tropes from Nazi Germany, where you'd have the greedy, hook-nosed, Jew, rubbing his hands in glee, as children starve. Okay, that's really the only kind of propaganda comparison here. You're absolutely correct, is really disturbing. 90 years ago, you could find it in Germany. A Jew-hating kind of racist collectivism has reared its ugly head. And it's reared its ugly head in a political action committee that spans the spectrum of American politics from left to right. It is a very disturbing trend in my view. Look, America stands for individual rights. It was founded on the idea of individual freedom and rights. And those countries in this world that courageously fight for relatively civilized situation like Israel does are our natural friends. We have a natural interest in common. It's called civilization. And if they can't see it at that level, then I'm afraid they don't know what Americanism is in the first place. So these are the last people who should be opening their traps about what America first means.
Yeah, now people in the first clip could have seen Michael Rectenwald. We're gonna watch the second clip, but while we watch it, I would like people in the in the chat to guess the political affiliation, the party affiliation of this person. What are we thinking? Republican, Democrat, let's watch the second clip and you can make your guesses in the chat. Oh, Michael Rectenwald is the founder of AZAPAC.
Not counting the cost of U.S. engagements in the region at Israel's behest. The total cost to U.S. taxpayers in service of Israel is an estimated $33 billion since October 7th, 2023. That's on top of the $3.8 billion sent Israel every year. Billions that could fix our roads. Billions that could fund our schools. Billions that could house our veterans. Billions that could ease your burden. But no, they fund endless Israeli aggression instead. Israel, the largest recipient of U.S. aid in history. Israel, the country that bombed the USS Liberty. Israel, the country using our weapons to mass murder innocents. 20,000 children to be exact. Gaza ripped off the mask. We all watched the live-streamed horrors.
Okay, so people can try to guess which political affiliation this man is. And as you wouldn't be surprised, it's not a Democrat. It's not a Republican. It's, of course, a libertarian. Specifically, Michael Rectenwald was actually the 2024, he actually tried to be the libertarian candidate for the president. Funnily enough, if you go to rectenwald2024.com, it redirects you to some Chinese website, so I'm not sure what's really happening there. It's kind of weird. But again, libertarians are the ones who, you know, ally themselves with both the crazy parts of the right.
This money to build up roads and schools.
Yeah.
Two principles to scrape together, okay? This guy wouldn't know a consistent argument if it bit him in the rear end, okay? It is, but it's your typical of your libertarian, though, because any foreign policy, any foreign aid, you see, they don't trust the state as such. And so foreign policy, we would never go, you see, it's only our foreign policy that gets us into a situation where we might even need to be at war. That's their pseudo thinking, the shoddy rationalizations that go for thinking on their side. When and in this guy's case, it really, I mean, when you're talking about genocide, the people who are actually after genocide against Israel, and Israel, which was created in the wake of an actual attempt at genocide against the Jewish people, okay, they're using that kind of language on purpose, and he knows damn well that this is the most feeble genocide in human history that Israel engaged in Gaza. Israel could have, with conventional weapons, wiped out the entire population. They did not. In fact, they're trying to feed that population, wrongly in my view, but trying to feed that population, warning them before they bomb buildings. So the detachment from reality, the scope of that detachment from reality can be explained by really two things. Because the guy isn't being consistent with any principles of liberty, even though he calls himself a libertarian. It could only boil down to a hatred of governments as such, in his personal case, with a nice frosting of anti-Semitism and all of the Jew hatred, all of the despicable Jew-hating lies that have been promoted by the enemies of Israel, all wrapped up into one nice little package. It's disgusting.
Yeah, and I mean, Stuart, to go to you again, Michael Rectenwald, I think you said before the show you weren't familiar with him, but, I went to his X, and I didn't, scrape and search for stuff to say. I scrolled and I looked on past few days on what he has posted. In past few days, he had a discussion, what is it called, X Space or something like that, when you have a stream on X on Twitter. He had discussion with Phil Turney, a person we have covered because he was on Candace Owens talking about how Israel purposely attacked USS Liberty. This was an incident during the Six-Day War where Israel accidentally attacked an American ship that was in the region close to Egypt. It's very unfortunate, but of course the conspiracies are saying Israel attacked purposely America for fun, I guess. I think
Yeah,
the
just for kicks.
yeah, I think the justification is like they would think it was Egypt and joined the war, despite the fact that Israel was clearly like winning the war anyway. But okay, this was one thing. But
Responsibility.
then, whenever he mentions Israel, he puts it in quotes, like it's Israel. I have no idea why. Like, what is it? Like, it doesn't exist or what? He of course retweeted Nick Fuentes, and he also praised Cenk Uygur. So we are not even like just on the right. We're any anti-Semites we can find, let's go and do stuff with them. And of course, as James mentioned, when it comes to this video, right, the money we could spend on da 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 da. I guess it's no longer sexy being libertarian or fiscally conservative to say we shouldn't spend money, we should pay the federal debt. I guess it's not sexy to say that. You have to say no, no, no. I know I'm a libertarian or he is a libertarian, but we need to spend the money on to ease your burden, to make X cheaper. This is the purpose of government, according to today's libertarian. Oh, by the way, he is from the Mises Caucus, the recent takeover that happened in the Libertarian Party, and I think his books were even mentioned on Mises Institute website. So good legacy of one of the greatest economists. Stuart?
I don't believe in an afterlife, but if I did, I think von Mises would be spinning in his grave. Yeah, I mean, that totally tracks. That makes sense. I mean, the von Mises Caucus is evil, and this guy is evil. He is an anti-Semite. I'm sure he would. I mean, these people always deny it. Very few people will openly say they're an anti-Semite. Mostly they will couch it in terms of being anti-Israel. But there's just no way around it with someone like this. It's hatred of Jews is his prime motivator. It has to be. Otherwise,
Ludwig von Mises was Jewish. Ludwig von Mises argued against anarchism. Ludwig von Mises escaped Adolf Hitler. He was both a liberal advisor to the Austrian government, and a Jew, and had to flee Nazi Germany to come to America. The very idea that these libertarian cranks are calling themselves the Mises Institute is disgusting. They are a despicable rejection of what Mises really stood for. And of course, Mises would be spinning in his grave. It is absolutely despicable anti-Semitism in the name of one of the greatest thinkers in human history. I am beyond repelled. Mises fled Nazi Germany because he was Jewish. Nazi-dominated Europe because he was Jewish. There are no words of contempt that I can find that are strong enough for what they call the Mises Caucus.
Yeah, and I mean, one of my I generally really like a bunch of libertarian clips, and one that I really like is from when the Mises Caucus took over the Libertarian Party. Justin Amash was on stage reading quotes, and he was getting booed for it, but he was reading von Mises. He was actually reading quotes from von Mises, and he was being booed for that by libertarians from the Mises Caucus. So let's watch the next clip.
The money extorted from us funds crimes against humanity, what genocide scholars and dozens of humanitarian organizations call a genocide. This blind allegiance, this veto on our national sovereignty, this denial of reality must end. We've had more than enough. AZAPAC isn't here to beg. We're here to evict. We're backing warriors who spit in the face of this cabal.
So, I mean, again, the way, I mean, Stuart, he says, according to the UN, according to international organizations, according to genocide scholars, like all it takes for a bunch of libertarians to be fans of international world order or whatever I think this guy even has a book on the Great Reset where he talks about the World Economic Forum. And now they agree with us, so might as well go with them. I mean, this has I don't like to call out things like racism, anti-Semitism, like mildly, because it is like to say somebody is that, like somebody's prejudicial, it is like completely, in a sense, giving up on any reason he has, right? If you have this type of prejudicial thing in you, it's hard to reason with you. It's hard to take you honestly. But with this amount of, like, if you go to his X, he only talks about Jews and Israel, and he puts Israel in quotes. Like, this amount of like focus, there has to be something. This is not rational. This amount of like focus on one thing, and compromising of everything else, right? They literally, in a way, it's similar to a certain MAGA cult, right? It's when you compromise every single thing you know just to uphold this, right? And this person compromises all of his libertarian values, although we could probably do a whole episode about why it might not necessarily be even compromise. But on the face level, compromising all of his like limited government values, just to go after Israel. Stuart?
Yeah, that's why I said, I mean, I don't like to accuse people of anti-Semitism. You know, I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt. Certainly, there are valid reasons to, criticize Israel. There's valid reasons to not be in favor of foreign aid for Israel or for any other nation. I think that should always be something that's examined very carefully. If we're spending tax dollars, going to other nations, it needs to be very clearly laid out why it is in America's self-interest. So that, there are, I always try to think of the actual values that people are pursuing. But in something like this, it's just, you can't come up with a non-anti-Semitic reason for him to be doing this. It's clearly an obsession of his. He's just bought into this whole, trope that unfortunately is gaining a lot of ground around the world, and most alarmingly for me, and it's gaining ground in America. There's a lot of anti-Semitism out there.
Yeah, I mean, James, again, how Stuart said, like, if you are, if you do really are troubled by the U.S. federal debt, which I think is absolutely justifiable, if you are certain non-interventionist, although I think even that word, that concept has been co-opted way too much. I could like see sort of justifiable reasons for like limiting, shutting down the US aid, limiting foreign aid to other countries. But it always, so far I haven't found like a person who is like reasonable on this. It's always specifically Israel, and when they acknowledge the other, they might acknowledge, like, I'm sure this person might acknowledge that America maybe shouldn't also give money to Egypt, South Korea. They are probably for dismantling the NATO, so they would like support things like that. But the only thing they actually focus is specifically Israel, and it is this conspiratorial Israel took over America.
Right.
But somehow, like, Israel took over America, but if we just get a few candidates in Congress, it will be solved. But if we get different people in power, it will be solved. But Israel took over America. But it's all about, just getting people with different values into Congress.
If all of those Christian members of the House and the Senate weren't being bribed and extorted, they wouldn't be supporters of Israel. I mean, you really attempt to even follow the logic. Now, it is true there are libertarians who would say we shouldn't be giving any foreign aid. We shouldn't have a foreign policy at all, really. But I am not a libertarian, and I am not an anarchist. And as I said at the beginning, the one area where the government should be attending to the world and using resources, now going back to, taxes, okay, does it come from involuntary means that I would, at the end of the day, want to be voluntary means? Of course. But the point is that military aid is different than other kinds of foreign aid. That at least comes within the proper scope, the valid scope of the sort of things government ought to be doing. But you notice the frenzied emotion that this guy has, the intensity when he talks about genocides and slaughters and we're beholden to, we're slaves of. You know, you don't listen to the intensity of it, as if there is some special Svengali magic that somehow the Israeli, lobby has on on American policymakers and the American public. By the way, it's really truly bizarre, and it has to boil down to anti-Semitism. As I say, you made a good point. Check out how much foreign aid the United States sends to Egypt. Sends out. Look at how many weapons we sell to Saudi Arabia and to Japan, and then say, well, wait a minute here. Why aren't they focused in a similar way on the weapons that the U.S. is selling to Japan and Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, but by the way, I might just throw in the numbers. I believe when it comes to Israel, a little bit over 300 billion has been appropriated over the existence, over like at all. I think on the second place is Egypt at like 150, 160. Third, I believe fifth is South Korea. Fourth is South Vietnam, by the way. So like top four, and you have a nation that doesn't even exist anymore.
If you look at the numbers from 2024, Saudi Arabia and Japan are actually competing with Israel. So why don't they get for the fiscal year 2024? So why don't they get the attention? Look up those numbers.
Number three is Afghanistan at also like 150, and that's 150 over 20 years. When it comes to Israel, it's over the existence.
20 years, and much worse even than the billion spent, where the young American and British lives that were lost for no purpose in that Afghanistan madness. But when it comes to Israel, it's different. We don't talk about them the way we talk about Japan or South Korea. We don't talk about them the way we talk about arms shipments to Saudi Arabia. We don't talk about them the same way we do with other governments. And you can listen, as I say, to the emotional edge he has here on the kind of extortion and manipulation and bribery that apparently is responsible for. I mean, if it wasn't for Jewish extortion and bribery and secret, cabal manipulations, the American people and the American Congress wouldn't support Israel, even though they're largely Christians doing this. It is crazy.
Now let's take a look at the last part where they actually do mention the specific people, and then we can quickly talk about the people they support right now.
Jose Vega in New York, confronting the uniparty machine. He's challenging APAC darling Richie Torres. Mike Wilnaugh in Florida, an America-only patriot challenging Daniel Webster, a fossilized incumbent who serves everyone but the American people. Aaron Baker, also in Florida. He rejects APAC bribes and demands an end to the foreign aid grift. He's challenging the biggest Zionist of them all, Randy Fine.
Tucker Carlson is the most dangerous anti-Semite in America.
AZAPAC isn't a protest, it's a reclamation. America isn't a vassal state. We're no one's colony. We're not supposed to be an ATM and munitions depot for Israel. If you're done with the fear, done with our politicians taking bribes, done with being smeared with the anti-Semitic label just because you want your country back, then AZAPAC is your army. Head to azapac.com. That's AZA-PAC.com right now. Donate, volunteer, amplify, join the fight. Because we're not pleading for our country back, we're taking it.
So this was the last part. Quickly, just the people he mentioned. We have Aaron Baker challenging Randy Fine in Florida's 6th congressional district. I think Randy Fine has been one of the, I think, greatest supporter of Israel for a long time, even though he's a bit too much MAGA for my taste. But at least when it comes to Israel, he's been very consistent and very proper, even when it comes to messaging of not giving into any Palestinian propaganda. We have Jose Vega, who is a Democrat, and he's challenging Richie Torres in New York's 15th congressional district. Richie Torres, by the way, so Jose Vega is somebody advocating for Medicare for all, and this is supported. Richie Torres is somebody who wanted to join the squad, who wanted to be part of them because he was allied with them on the socialist policies. but he didn't because of the Israeli issue, because he recognized how evil they were on that. And we have Mike Wilno, who is challenging Daniel Webster in Florida's 11th congressional district. This is the only people they have supported so far. And Stuart, something that I found almost interesting is, what is happening right now with the Republican Party is, after the Tucker Carlson interview with Nick Fuentes, is this slow acceptance of both even more crazier conspiracism and basically real conspiracy brain people. And we are talking like even crazier than MAGA to some extent. And almost it seems like Israel, not necessarily being a litmus test, but the stance of Israel is almost like the only defense the Republican Party has against these people. Because the only reason the Republican Party is now doesn't like people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, doesn't like people like Tucker Carlson, or even Nick Fuentes, is specifically Israel. Like, it feels like if it wasn't for Israel, like, Republican Party would be just gone. And this political action committee seems to represent that, right? It's that no matter what, we just need to like allow this. And I mean, I don't want to see what happens with both the Republican Party and even Democrat Party if the Israeli issue doesn't become at least some stoppage from like crazy people. Because like the Canary mission does it, right? It's always the Jews that are being the first one that are being come after when the nation is collapsing, when the nation is going the very evil path.
Yeah, I mean, the Jews are kind of the canary in the coal mine, and yeah, if the Republicans lose their mind on that issue, it's over. I don't know. I feel like the mainstream Republican Party has just continued to deteriorate and become more and more conspiracy minded and more statist over the course of the last few years. And yeah, it does feel like the kind of defense of Israel is the one thing holding some of them to some kind of reality, but it seems like more and more of them are going, they're on board with Tucker, they're on board with Candace, they're not willing to actively go against them, which is alarming.
Which should be sufficient. Tucker Carlson spoke at the Republican National Convention last year. It should be Donald Trump and every Republican establishment figure who's denouncing Tucker Carlson. I mean, Tucker Carlson makes up crap about Christians being attacked by Israel, or he'll have this friendly, chatty interview with Nick Fuentes, who thinks that Jews and homosexuals control America, or the completely psychotic, off-the-rails Candace Owen, who is anti-science, and there is no wacky conspiracy theory. I mean, that woman should get psychotherapy, frankly. There's no wacky anti-Zionist conspiracy theory that she doesn't endorse. And if the Republican Party cannot stand up against this irrational, anti-Semitic, absolutely, there is, if they don't like being called fascists, these Republicans, then they better check their premises right here for one thing. But Stuart's absolutely right. I mean, the Republican Party has been in a real slide. I mean, they are embracing antitrust laws, tariffs, economic nationalism in so many different ways that, and they don't like big tech, they don't like big pharma, they're sounding relatively indistinguishable from the way labor union Democrats sounded back when I was younger. Israel is one of the few things that just slightly distinguishes Republicans in a better way from Democrats anymore. If they lose the defense of civilization, if they absolutely lose their moorings on this, and you can see Rectenwald himself, defending in effect the welfare state over foreign aid to Israel. These people have completely lost their principled moorings. There is no party of liberty, even nominally, in America anymore. Yeah. It's pretty sad.
It's very sad. James is absolutely right.
I think what we're seeing is the sort of reality coming to bite somebody after they accept certain ideas. I don't know if you guys seen the Tucker Carlson did a show on CNN. I think it was called The Crossfire, where it was like a Republican and a Democrat sort of like arguing about stuff. And I've noticed like, oh, Tucker Carlson was always like had a really bad epistemology. When I watched it, it's like, oh wow, he was always like this. It's not like a recent thing. This like what he is right now is just a natural result of the bad epistemology he had 20 or so years ago. And in the same way, I think a lot.
Demons are out getting him, don't you know? Well, before, when he was still on the air with Fox, we were visited by UFOs. No, the guy has always been a mystic irrationalist, and now it's really coming out in ugly ways. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is even now happening to the whole Republican Party. I think it might have started with Donald Trump or even maybe a bit before, where they started accepting more conspiracies, when they started accepting more emotionalism. And now it came to, before that it was just conceptual, right? We're just making fun, whatever, emotionalism. But then when it comes to actual issues they care about, which in this case is Israel, it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. We didn't want that, but no, you've accepted it. You've accepted emotionalism. You've accepted conspiracism. That will develop into anti-Semitism. That's why, now you have people like Nick Fuentes who have a lot of power because they already knew what was going to happen. They understood that once you start accepting conspiracism, it will evolve into, in this case, going after Israel, going after the Jews. We have a super chat from Bulmus. Thank you so much. He says he probably changed it from a similar name, starting with another word for asshole. Who specifically? Oh, Michael Rectenwald. Okay, that's pretty funny. Um, but yeah, with that, Stuart Razi in the chat says Trump was a birther. This was his issue during the Obama years. Oh, the being born in Kenya
Obama.
or what? Yeah.
Yeah, saying, yeah. No, that was kind of the start of accepting conspiracy theories into the Republican Party. And it's, unfortunately, I think bad ideas drive out good ideas, and bad epistemology, if you don't correct it, it ends up corrupting the soul of an individual or the soul of a political party. And that's where we are.
And any more last thoughts, Stuart, from you? And where can people find you?
I have a Substack, stuartmargolis.substack.com. I'm also on Facebook. And my only closing words are, we need to fight this kind of craziness, the people like Rectenwald, with everything we've got, because these ideas are on the rise and they are very, very dangerous.
Yeah, and I would only add to that, it's important to also know when to make political allies and you should never compromise your values. Like your alliance with somebody should only be on the same values. Again, this guy, Michael Rectenwald, I think he was the second when it came to the Libertarian National Convention. He got the most votes after I'm trying to remember the Libertarian candidate name. Yeah,
That's how irrelevant they've become.
Yeah.
I don't know either.
Chase, I think. Oliver Chase, I think.
Oh, that sounds right.
But it's important to remember he was the anti-Israel candidate as well. He was saying Israel is committing a genocide. So, like, it's not like the guy who won the Libertarian National Convention. He was like, that was the rational guy. No, it's Chase Oliver, other way around. Yeah, that's what you get from Libertarian Party. That's why I try to, as much as I can, distinguish us or myself from libertarians, because they are wackos to large extent.
Yeah.
James, any last thoughts from you, and where can people find you?
You just, when a quote, he puts Israel in quotes, when a quote libertarian is supporting quote Marxist ideas like quote colonialism, you're in a very, very bad state when it comes to cognitive dissonance. That's my last thought on all this. No, these people, like Stuart says, we have to fight them with all of our might. And, the congressman who was quoted negatively there, saying Tucker Carlson is the most dangerous? It is people like that who are frankly the most dangerous elements on the scene in American politics today. Your Candace Owenses and your Tucker Carlsons, they are destroying anything that was left of the Republican Party, and they're moving politics into a very dangerously irrational place. Let me put it that way. I'm trying to be as, without opening another can of worms. You can find me where you can find me. You can find me here at the Ayn Rand Center UK. We're going to be starting next Sunday. And our objective is Sunday School, as it's been informally called, our discussion of Leonard Peikoff's masterwork, Objectivism, the Philosophy of Ayn Rand. But you have to be a paid subscriber to take advantage of that. And we will be going through it rather carefully. And so you'll get a good grip on the philosophy that informs the commentary you hear right here at the Ayn Rand Center UK. So please consider becoming a paid subscriber. We're starting some very interesting stuff just this Sunday, but you got to be a paid subscriber to take advantage of it.
And let me also remind people about the ARCUK's mailing list, where that's the best and quickest way to find out about anything ARCUK, most importantly about the Irreplaceable Spark Conference 2, for those who missed the first one. And from what I can tell, everybody really enjoyed them from the people I've talked to. So I'm sure the second one will be even better. So simply sign up for the mailing list to find out about it. And of course, you can also check out the website, objectivism.co.uk, to find out more about the conference itself. And Razi also reminds me to announce that we will start again live streaming the production meetings. Those happen at half an hour before the daily objective, so at 5 p.m. UK time. They usually go for 20-25 minutes, where we talk about the shows before, where we talk about specifically one we want to cover, as well as anything that is sort of developing in the week. But that's for Inner Circle YouTube members. So that's another perk you can get, because if you are Inner Circle member, you can also access the Irreplaceable Spark Conference 1, all of the talks that happened there, including, for example, the Leonard Peikoff's most recent talk he did. So you can check that out. Razi also in the chat says the Spark Conference 2 is in Austin, Texas, October 17 and 18, 2026. And Bonnie asked on Mondays, no, the production meetings, they will be, it will be tomorrow. Let's just say that it will be tomorrow, and we'll see how it also develops from there. With that, thank you guys for joining me today. Thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow with another episode of the Daily Objective and the Reality Show. Until then, bye-bye.
Be safe.